I like Rush. Rush was good. Best racing themed movie for sure. Yeah, I don't know if it's the best movie I've ever seen, but it's the best racing movie I've seen, and that seems to be the topic we're on today. I really like Meditations. It's a good, by Marcus Aurelius, or however you say his name. I like Meditations. It's a good book. I always circle back to that one. I'm not very deep. Like it's pretty shallow, It's what you got. It's pretty on the surface. I love Ancient Aliens. I think it's just fantastic. I'm not sold, but I just really enjoy the programming. It's solid. No, I'm not a big sports guy. Pretty much just racing. Yeah, pretty shallow. Like I said, you see it all on Saturday. Like a good steak, good potatoes, nice salad, lunch. I liked English. Second to lunch was English. Funny enough, probably history, but then I've come to really enjoy history. Like I probably read more history and watch more history stuff now than anything else, but in school I didn't really enjoy it. I don't know. Whole fusion's pretty nice. Like excuses. I don't know. They just drives me nuts. I think it's something that probably irritates me when I find myself doing it. And so I'm pretty in tune to like other people doing it. I think whether it's from me or from somebody else, I find it irritating. I've been on a bit of that, like Tyler Childers and kind of that genre lately. It's been pretty good. I like that. But I get into about everything. The first concert I ever went to was 38 Special with my parents took me to 38 Special when I was like little. I was like 6 or something. I am absolutely not a karaoke person. I am as anti-karaoke person as you can get. I'm gonna pull from a little further back and say I'd like to race like Jud Larson, or maybe like a Mike Nazaruk, right? That was it, right? Mike Nazaruk, yeah. Race like a Jud Larson or a Mike Nazaruk and go see. I feel like we'd be be a fairly aggressive affair. My first racing hero as a kid was Jack Hodenshield. My dad took me we'd go watch wing races, and the Outlaws came to town, and in Northern California, all the sprint car drivers were like big dudes. It was like Jonathan Allard, and Statler, and the Kadings, and they were all like big guys, and I was a little guy, and my dad was little, and then the Outlaws came to town, and Hod just absolutely whooped him at Gold Cup, and we went down in the pits afterwards and met him, and he was just a little guy like us, and that was kind of my first, first time I remember thinking like, oh, I want to be a sprint car driver. I went to the what do they call, like Arches out in Utah. That was really neat. I've been to a lot of places. That was about as neat as I've seen, I think. Wow, that'd be an ice cold NOS energy drink. Well, I worked some construction, doing remodel stuff with my parents, and that was they had me labored away from the time I was too young to be working. But my first real job for somebody else was working for World Environmental in West Sacramento, doing repairing dumpsters and working out in the yard there, and they hauled a lot of like asbestos hauling and stuff. So building tarps and building covers and repairing dumpsters and all that. It's good fun. Well, what's the what's the adage? It was too lazy to work and too scared to steal. No, I've just always loved race cars from the time I was, as long as I can remember. My dad would watch, NASCAR on TV and take me to sprint car races, and he was a race fan, and just always thought it was about the coolest thing ever, and always wanted to, always dreamt I could, and I really just loved being around it, whether I could race or not. I worked for a lot of teams when I wasn't racing, and it took me a lot of years to get racing consistently and what you'd call full time, and but in between that I was working for race teams and going up and down the road, and I just loved every minute of it. It was a lot of fun, and loud race cars are cool, and I've just always been drawn to them, always loved it, and whether I was driving or wrenching or whatever it could be to be around it, I wanted to be around it. And so ultimately I wanted to drive or race when I was a kid, and up through, and that was always the goal, but one way or another I wanted to be involved somehow. Yeah, if you're a kid that's trying to get going in racing, I would kind of touch on the same thing as like just be around it as much as you can. I feel like when I moved to Indiana and went to work for Jeff Walker on his team and got to spend a little over a year just working on cars and for a good team, and like learning the right way to do things, and Jeff had a lot of good drivers for him, a lot of legends and guys that have become heroes of the sport, and just getting to be around them, see the way they operate, see the decisions they make on the racetrack, and just being able to take all that in, and then you can apply it when you get to race. And I think a lot of time it's easy to get so focused on what you're doing or what your team is lacking or what you're, there's a million reasons to come up with why you're not as successful as you want to be. But I think going and learning from somebody that is successful and watching guys that are successful and how they operate can really kind of change the whole trajectory of your career.